You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There's a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for January 6th, 2026. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where this is the sound of tens of millions of MAGA mopes completely reversing their opinions again. It's The Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal.
And no, we're not forgetting that we're recording this on the 5th anniversary of the violent Republican insurrection against the government of the United States on January 6th, 2021. Because everything that is happening now exists in the shadow of that traumatizing act of treason by Trump supporters and the subsequent capitulation by virtually the entire Republican Party to the traitor who instigated that failed coup. A capitulation so cowardly and so complete that it can cost you your job in the federal government to suggest that the 2020 election was not stolen and that January 6th was a crime against American democracy.
Now, that said, today we're going to spend a little time camping out in the year 2005 and 2006, recklessly remembering stuff that we're not supposed to remember, Blue Gal.
Uh-oh.
Yep, afraid so. But first, I want to talk about holiday films, right? I love me some holiday movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Specifically, my favorite holiday movie, which is, as you know, The Lion in Winter.
That's his favorite Christmas movie. I think your second favorite Christmas movie is Die Hard.
It could be Die Hard, although now that we're watching a few noirs every now and then, it's remarkable how many of them are set in and around the
Christmas time era. Yeah.
But for the few unfortunate of you out there who have never seen A Lion in Winter, here's a clip.
I should have killed you years ago. You put me here. You made me do mad things. You bled me.
Shoulder it yourself. Don't put it on my back. Pick it up and carry it. I can. My losses are my work.
What losses? I'm the one with nothing.
Lost your life's work, have you? Provinces are nothing. Land is dirt. I could take defeats like yours and laugh. I've done it. If you're broken, it's because you're brittle.
That was Katharine Hepburn and Peter O'Toole in 1968 conducting an acting class. It is such a goddamn quotable film. I can quote you the entire thing practically from memory if you'd like, but we don't have that kind of time. So let's just go with, in a world where carpenters get resurrected, anything is possible. Or I could peel you like a pear, and God himself would call it justice.
Why wouldn't that? A knife! He's got a knife!
Of course he has a knife. He always has a knife. We all have knives. It's 1183 and we're barbarians.
And it's a Christmas movie. That's what's so awesome about it. It is a legit Christmas movie. Now, Blue Gal, you're a big fan of David Lean epics. Am I right? Like Dr. Zhivago, Bridge on the River Kwai, Lawrence of Arabia, like that, right?
Yeah, I like those. But, I'd still take Laura or Notorious over Dr. Zhivago. That's just the truth.
I know that about you, and I know that there are certain movies you will take over a David Lean epic anytime, which is fair enough. So here's a clip from Lawrence of Arabia, after which I will have a facetious question to ask of you.
Anywhere within 300 miles of Medina, there are Hashemite Bedouins. They can cross 60 miles of desert in a day.
Oh, thanks, Dryden. This is going to be fun.
Lawrence, only two kinds of creature get fun in the desert. Bedouins and gods, and you're neither. Take it from me. For ordinary men, it's a burning, fiery furnace.
No, Dryden. It's going to be fun.
It is recognized that you have a funny sense of fun.
All right, so what's your facetious question?
All right, my facetious question is this. Doesn't this ever confuse you? Have you ever asked, wait a minute, what is King Henry doing in the desert, for goodness sakes, leading an attack on Damascus? After all, Henry's 50 years old. He has 3 horrible legitimate sons by Eleanor, just awful and well played by all the actors. And as she says, we could populate a country town with country girls who've borne you sons. How many is it? Help me count the bastards. But Lawrence of Arabia is none of those things. He is unmarried. He has no kids. He's a leader, but never a king. So doesn't this baffle and confuse you, Blue Gal, how the same person can be these two things?
No, because it doesn't confuse me because it's two different movies, Driftglass. Mm-hmm. And Peter O'Toole plays King Henry and also Lawrence of Arabia, but they're two different characters. And he is hired to do a movie and read a script, Driftglass.
Oh, okay.
So, and act. It's called acting.
Oh, all right.
So Katharine Hepburn, yeah, she's Eleanor, but, only for that movie. And then she also was Rosie Sayre in The African Queen, and she was in a bunch of other movies. Tracy Lord in The Philadelphia Story. See, she gets to do different things. And she doesn't go to the Philadelphia Story set and start reading The Lion in Winter, because that wouldn't work.
No, it wouldn't work. You're right. You've corrected me. Thank you for straightening all this out for me.
Yeah, it's okay. They can do two different things
because they're hired. Because they're hired to perform two different scripts, as I understand.
Exactly. So Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Wait a minute. Now what?
Is not the leader of Bridge on the River Kwai. Even though it's played by the same guy, Alec Guinness.
Wait a minute. Are you sure? Are you sure about that? Okay.
Right. He doesn't go in. He doesn't tell the Japanese prison camp guy, "May the Force be with you."
No, he doesn't. That's true. And he doesn't force the man running the prison camp to say, "I have already given the order."
I have already given the order. That's my favorite thing to say at work, by the way.
All right, so you've straightened that out for me. And this is a note to you gentlemen out there, and women too, I suppose. Always marry the smart one. She's got all the other wonderful qualities, but always go for smart.
Oh, gosh, I've had a hard day today, but thank you, Driftglass. Felt very stupid all day, but,
Smart is sexy as hell, and I'm not going to let you beat up yourself for misplacing a slip of paper.
Yeah. Which brings us to our top story this week. The almost overnight 180-degree reversal of many MAGA idiots on the subject of war and America first, and also how flummoxed many pundits are by this flip-flop, as if they aren't reprogrammable meat bags.
What's going on? How can they do that?
How can they do that?
They just said this other thing this other day. Well, I'm very confused.
Driftglass, this is what theocratic fascist Matt Walsh, he's also a misogynist, was telling his 4 million Twitter followers before the invasion of Venezuela. Quote, "We've spent the last 25 years bringing quote-unquote freedom and quote-unquote democracy to countries around the globe, while our own country has been systematically invaded. And now our largest cities are run by foreigners and communists.
Oh, no.
If you want to know why I'm so avowedly non-interventionist, this is why." Unquote.
Wow.
That's fucking racist, Matt.
Well, sure, but it's pretty clear and hard language.
Yeah,
it's hard.
Like he doesn't want wars. Right, got it.
It'd be real hard to walk that back. But this was Matt Walsh, the same guy 2 days ago, quote, "This is a war for oil." First of all, the war lasted like 90 minutes. Second, going to war to secure vital resources for your own people is totally legitimate. Why should we allow some third world communist shithole to control trillions of dollars worth of oil? Unquote.
Well, at least he's consistent about the fucking racism.
Yeah, he's consistently racist and just inconsistent with everything else.
Everything else, right. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk Laura Loomer now. Laura Loomer before, quote, "I'm America first. I don't support regime change. I went on @Bannon's War Room to talk about Chinese aggression in Venezuela and why we need to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a foreign Islamic terrorist organization." Unquote.
Strong words from Laura Loomer. Strong, crazy words from the White House unofficial HR director.
Really?
But this is her right now. Quote, "Maduro has arrived at the DEA office in Manhattan. He was transported in an armored motorcade after being transported in a blindfold via helicopter and then by plane to New York after his compound in Caracas was raided by U.S. Special Forces. Proud to be an American today." Unquote.
The one and only blogger Cat Turd, social media star Cat Turd, before. Name one U.S.-inspired regime change that hasn't ended in absolute disaster, unquote.
Well, I could name one. And it was when we threw the British out in 1787. But that appears to now be ending in disaster, Bluegal.
Yes,
so,
right.
over the long term.
Right.
But this is Cat Turd now. This is Cat Turd as of yesterday or today. Quote, Venezuela is now more free than New York City, unquote.
Suck my dick, Cat Turd.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you noticing a pattern, Bluegal?
Oh, yeah,
Are you noticing
I am.
a really, really striking pattern?
And this is all in the context of course, Fox News just pulling out their Fox News rocks.
Yeah.
We love the military. We love invading and having bombs and stuff to show you.
In case you're confused by Fox News rocks that my wife just referred to, before the invasion of Iraq, they had Fox News reporters out there in the desert, like going tank to tank and troop to troop saying, save Fox rocks, save Fox rocks. And they did it because it was a fucking commercial. It was a show.
Yeah.
It was just a show.
Right. All right. So here's Federalist Society goon Will Chamberlain before. Quote, the Republican Party is no longer the party of regime change and endless wars.
Really? Okay.
How nice for him. Yeah. If you want to be its standard bearer, that is a non-negotiable position.
Now, and this next quote, which is from Saturday, also from Federalist Society goon Will Chamberlain, makes me think he does not know what the word non-negotiable means.
He probably doesn't.
Considering I believe he's an attorney, but, a lot of attorneys are real dumb. This is, quote, I can think of few better uses for my tax dollars than black-bagging the head of a foreign narco-trafficking organization that enriches itself by addicting and poisoning my fellow Americans, unquote. And as you know, Bluegal, all of that is a lie. All of it.
Yeah.
There is no fentanyl coming into this country from Venezuela. That's what all these people were referring to because that's the scary drug that you want to stop. But none of it's coming from Venezuela. And all that cocaine that J.D. Vance is so worried about is going to Europe, as far as I understand, not to the U.S. So this was...
Well, it doesn't matter because Trump... Well, we'll get into what Trump did. Anyway, let's talk about Nick Fuentes, Nazi Nick Fuentes, a self-proclaimed America First diehard. His fans wear blue America First hats because MAGA is over as far as Nick Fuentes is concerned. He's the master of rebranding now.
It hasn't gone far. It's like they're Hydra to the regular party, Nazi party, regular Republican Nazi party. They're beyond that now.
Yep. And he and Marjorie Taylor Greene were arm in arm as leaders of MAGA's isolationist faction. No more forever wars for oil, right?
No, never.
He has denounced every American military adventure in the Middle East as a war for Israel because Nazi. And a distraction from the America First ethos that Donald Trump has championed in his campaigns. He doesn't want to fight wars for Israel, apparently.
And this was Fuentes on Telegram, and you must hear this in all caps because I can't do it justice because it's all caps. Just this last Saturday, quote, take the oil. The Western Hemisphere is ours, unquote. The implied maniacal Bond villain laughter just follows that. Yeah.
Alex Jones. Now, I thought Alex Jones had to give all of his money to the Sandy Hook parents.
I thought he did, but, you go to court and things happen, and now he's still here. So apparently.
He's still out there. Okay.
Yeah.
He is also America's leading isolationist. And he's been tap dancing like mad to explain why Trump's invasion of Venezuela was different.
That's right.
Because he said, quote, Thomas Jefferson would have gone to war with Venezuela, unquote.
Yeah, a lot of stuff Thomas Jefferson might have done that we wouldn't approve of. And no, shut up, Alex Jones. And creepy fascist incel influencer Tim Pool, who until recently was making a gobzillion dollars in laundered Russian money, which he was surprised to learn was why he had a lot of money in the bank.
He thought he just earned $100,000 a week because he was so good.
I'm so good in my little knit hat, my little incel self. He was suddenly thrilled to, quote, at the thought of, quote, tons of free oil, unquote, that America could soon enjoy. That tons of free oil.
Tons of free oil.
This list of creeps who are just flip-flopping without a backward glance just gets longer every day. And then there are the Trump stooges like Tulsi Gabbard, who have suddenly just gotten very quiet about an issue she was very loud about just a few years ago.
Yeah, now I'm going to choke on this a little bit because when I say Tulsi Gabbard and then her title in the government that my tax dollars pay for, I get a little upset.
An angel loses its wings every time you say that.
Pretty
So
bad.
sorry,
All
angels.
right, this is from WMUR ABC New Hampshire. Quote, President Donald Trump's Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was vocally opposed to what she called regime change wars when she ran for president in New Hampshire in 2020, but she hasn't publicly commented on the recent U.S. military actions in Venezuela. Calling out regime change wars was a staple of Gabbard's presidential campaign in New Hampshire in 2019 and 2020. We're at a situation today where not only are we still dealing with the cost of regime change wars that we're just not paying for what's happened in the past, but that leaders in Washington today are advocating for waging more of these wars in other countries, Gabbard said during her campaign. Gabbard was a Democrat then, but is now a Republican and serving as Trump's Director of National Intelligence. But in a Manchester town hall in April 2019, she specifically called out the first Trump administration's approach to Venezuela. In Venezuela, this is really about oil and making it so the American oil companies can get access to those resources in Venezuela. And they're willing to put all options on the table, all military options on the table, Gabbard said. Gabbard compared the 2019 tensions with Venezuela to the ramp up to the Iraq War, unquote.
Let's just sit with that for a minute.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get back to The Lion in Winter and Lawrence of Arabia and the ongoing failure. Why did we mention these movies? It's about the ongoing failure of American elite pundits to understand how the Republican Party works, or very specifically, how the base of the Republican Party works. Because elite pundits have always taken for granted that their Republican neighbors in their gated communities are what typical Republicans look and sound like. You know, you're leaning over the back fence and David Brooks is talking to his pal, and that's probably what all Republicans are like all across the country. Or that their literal fellow conservative travelers on the Acela Corridor train were saying, what they're saying is what most Republican voters think. It's pretty cross-sectional. They regurgitate back and forth to each other what George Will and Michael Gersten were writing in the Washington Post and what Peggy Noonan was saying on This Week and David Brooks was saying on Meet the Press and on PBS and on NPR and the New York Times. Just passing this bullshit around among themselves, creating a mythology of what the Republican Party is really like.
It's going to be Rubio, Driftglass. It's going to be Rubio.
And then, when the party finally rose up and showed their true face to the world by nominating a monster like Donald Trump, who swept aside all the pundits' preferred choices in the 2016 primaries, they still didn't get it.
When the base elected him the first time, they still didn't get it. When the party nominated him again in 2020, stood by him after January 6th, repeated Trump's lies as gospel, and then renominated and reelected him in 2024, the pundits still refused to see what was staring them in the face. They kept trying to square that circle with the lies they had been telling themselves for decades, lies that had already failed them. They have gone right on worshiping in the temple of the dead god of both sides do it, and flailing around for an explanation that would implicate the liberals. Looking at you, Ross, do that.
Yeah, that's a pretty common.
Find a way to blame Democrats and liberals for anything Republicans did.
Yeah, that's an absolutely common trope among conservative pundits and writers going back 25 years, 30 years at least. Meanwhile, those of us who live and work out here in the real world and have been politically active liberals for decades weren't terribly surprised at all by so many of the no more wars MAGA true believers suddenly bursting with circa 2003 Iraq invasion belligerent nationalism, because we've seen it all before. Instead of a Republican president lying about WMDs, we have a Republican president lying about fentanyl. But all the rest is really familiar. All the flag waving, all the stronger leadership in a dangerous world, all that talk, all you're either with us or against us, America is safer, freedom isn't free, all that same old bullshit. Yes, for those of you keeping score at home, with the Epstein Files, we have stupid Watergate. We have crimes and lies and an attempted cover-up directed from the White House by a Republican president. And now we have stupid Iraq. We have the illegal conquest and occupation of an oil-rich foreign country under false pretenses by another Republican president.
And I got to interrupt the flow here for a minute because it seems to me that we had stupid Iraq with Bush as well, because Bush was an idiot.
Well, yeah.
And,
Stupider Iraq.
Stupider Iraq is what we have. But Bush knew enough to let Cheney run the war for him.
Right.
Cheney and Rumsfeld run the war for him.
Yeah.
And there's nobody at the Trump White House, not only who knows how to do this, who knows how to, and Iraq was a clusterfuck.
Right.
There was no plan after the invasion at all to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Drop a bunch of money and divide up the country by the oil companies. That was it.
That was it. That was the plan. Yeah.
And several people in Iraq, in the intelligence community and in the diplomatic community said, if you do that, we will all quit en masse.
Yeah.
And that's what turned it into a 10-year war.
Well, and there's a documentary, which I think you and I have both seen like 4 times, called, I forget the title of it now. It's the Iraq War documentary. And I will remember it just as soon as this podcast is over.
Yes, right.
No end in sight. No end in sight.
Mm-hmm.
And they interview State Department officials. They interview Republicans who were like, we were trying to get chairs and phones.
Right.
And this didn't come as a surprise. We had shelves full of books on what to do if we ever invade Iraq and have to run the place. We had all these, and the Bush administration threw them all in the trash.
Yep.
And let the military dictate it, as opposed to the State Department. We knew it would be hard. I think it was General Shinseki who said we'd need 300,000 troops, some huge amount of troops over a long period of time. That got him demoted and shut down because he told the truth. But the Bush administration was smart enough to get someone like Colin Powell to go and lie for them at the UN.
Right.
And hold up these little pictures and prove. They felt the need to prove what they were doing was legal or legitimate to a wider audience.
Well, and what we have is not the opposite now. That's just what I'm trying to get at.
Well, I agree.
We don't have the opposite. We don't have Iraq plus anything.
No. Because
Donald Trump is off the chain.
Right.
Mentally.
Right.
And so he gets up during this whole presentation on what they did. A, he falls asleep. B, Hegseth is there looking up Venezuela on Twitter to find out what the social media response is on air.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And Trump says, with officials behind him, we're going to run the country.
Right. Which is
bonkers.
Well, that's what made Rubio's appearance on the Sunday shows, which we won't go into, and Stephen Miller just rambling psychotically to Jake Tapper, just because they're all just grabbing at nothing. There's no plan at all. There's no plan whatsoever.
The plan is coming out of a brain that has either damaged by stroke or dementia.
But here's the difference. Mm-hmm. The Bush administration, Cheney was smart enough to know that you had to come up with an excuse for invasion that would get Tim Russert off your back.
Exactly.
Now, the Trump administration just needs to make Cat Turd happy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all they need.
That's the point.
Fentanyl.
That's the point.
And there's no longer any pretense that this is anything other than a really dumb fig leaf for stupid people who
cover up the Epstein Files.
Yeah, to cover up the Epstein Files and to seize all the oil. And I do
want to add my conversation with my girlfriend on Saturday.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because I have a friend who has been my friend since the early 1990s. We have known each other for 40 years. And she's a Massachusetts liberal. She's well-read. She follows the news. Mm-hmm. She's on the side of the angels.
Yep.
I've known her forever. And this was Saturday. I finally had a chance to have a talk with her. And she said, this Venezuela thing is really crazy, isn't it? And I said, yeah. And she, like many of our friends, relies on us, like your family, relies on us to tell them what's going on. And she said, this is just crazy, and we're just doing it for the oil, right? And I said, no, we're doing it. There's an oil glut. We're doing it so so the news will stop talking about the Epstein Files. And she went, oh. And it wasn't because she doesn't know that. It wasn't because she's not aware of what's going on.
Right. Just didn't.
She hadn't made that connection because things are happening at such a rapid fire pace.
Right.
That a person, even who is on the side of liberals and believes in everything, isn't doing this all day long, every day for work.
Right. Like we are.
Yeah. Didn't make that connection yet.
Yeah.
And as soon as I said it, she said, of course, that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I made that comment on Blue Sky on Saturday, like, whatever Trump pretends to accomplish in Venezuela pales in comparison to two topless 14-year-old girls giving him a happy ending by lap dancing while, either Ghislaine Maxwell or Jeffrey Epstein takes Polaroids. This guy is a sex fiend and a pedophile and a rapist.
And a rapist and convicted rapist. Yep. An adjudicated rapist.
Adjudicated rapist.
He's all those things. And
we have made the mistake, I think, in the Democratic Party about being nice about that, like being too polite to discuss it.
Hmm.
And Kamala Harris should have come out on the debate stage and said, I'm debating a rapist. I'm debating a man who cheated on his wife with a porn star and then bribed her and took the bribe as a tax deduction for his business.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going on here, ladies and gentlemen.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree.
She walked over and shook his hand.
I agree. She shook his hand in a way that made him look weak.
It made him look weak. Yes. And good for her for doing that. But.
I agree. However, I watched that debate. You watched that debate. She mopped the floor with him.
She mopped the floor with him.
She absolutely mopped the floor with him. She beat the shit out of him.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Well, that's my point.
And that's the parallel to Bush, too. That's actually the parallel.
It didn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
John Kerry
never won a debate. Bush
John
never
Kerry
won a
whipped Bush's ass in 3 different debates. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
She went on there. And by the way, just for the record, there is no sentence that ends with, that's why I had to vote for Trump.
Right.
That is not despicable.
And I'm not criticizing Kamala Harris's 2024 campaign of going back and relitigating that.
No.
I'm just saying we Democrats are too damn nice about Trump's sexual history.
Yeah, I agree. We're not, but I understand what you're saying.
Rapist history. I don't even want to call it sexual because it's a power play.
Yeah, every
time.
And this is a let's get people stop talking about the Epstein Files and let's grab the oil because he's all about. Yeah. I mean, he's been saying grab the oil since whenever somebody's got some stuff he wants. I mean, this is Roman.
Yeah,
march in, take their shit, and put them under your boot and establish an empire.
And I like money, so I'm going to do this.
Yeah. And
I'm not
they
going to
elected me.
apologize in any way for it because I like doing it and I have the power to do it. And they're cheering him.
And these people handed him the power to do it.
Yes,
they walked into a polling place knowing what he was
and
handed him the power to do all of these things.
But this time around, this Republican president didn't bother keeping up the kabuki about freedom and liberation and drugs for more than a few hours because his brain's broken. In the first place, any idiot could see this obviously had nothing to do with drugs. This is from Axios, quote, "The shocking overnight strike on Venezuela to seize President Nicolas Maduro amplifies President Trump's inconsistent and often personalized approach to halting drug smuggling into the U.S. Trump ordered the operation to capture Maduro just a few weeks after pardoning former Honduras President Juan Orlando Hernandez, who had already been convicted in a U.S. court on similar drug trafficking charges," unquote. Convicted.
And someday we're going to find out exactly how much money changed hands to make that happen.
Yeah. And whether Roger Stone was involved.
Yeah, got his 10%.
Yeah.
And after that, almost immediately afterwards, Trump dropped all pretenses. This is from CNN. Quote, "This morning, Joe Scarborough revealed he has spoken with Trump probably half a dozen times since he was back in the White House, which, as a brief aside, is one of the many reasons we do not watch MS Now anymore. Because Joe Scarborough is crawling back up Trump's ass." Back to the quote, "Yesterday's 20-minute call was mostly, quote, filled with the president recounting the U.S. military's flawless execution of the operation," unquote. "But once Scarborough got a word in edgewise, He asked about future plans, and Trump's response was, quote, Joe, the difference between Iraq and this is that Bush didn't keep the oil. We're going to keep the oil, unquote. There you go.
Remember, yeah, that's it. Right. Flat out saying it.
It's a confession.
Remember, go ahead.
No, it's just a confession. It's a confession.
Yes, we're stealing. We're plundering. We're here to plunder. That's why we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, remember, Bush's Iraq war catastrophe was a soul-crushing trauma for the Republican base. They were made to look stupid in front of liberals, and they had gone all in on pro-war cheerleading and very publicly backing Bush to the hilt because it gave them a chance to get off on American troops killing brown people overseas, and to flog us liberals in virtually every media outlet as America-hating, terrorist-loving scum and weak on terror.
Right. Surrender monkeys.
So
bunch of surrender monkeys.
It's a win-win for the Bushies.
Yeah, it was great. They had a great time. They got the Dixie Chicks canceled.
Yeah.
They got a bunch of liberal writers terrorized into silence. They dominated the media. They got the legacy media to roll over for them entirely. And when it all fell apart, the base lost their fucking minds. Now, they didn't lose their mind because America lost a war. They lost their minds because they had been humiliated in front of us, America-hating, terrorist-loving, surrender monkey scum. And because it is psychologically impossible for Republican meatheads to admit when they're wrong. And it's twice as impossible to admit when we liberals were right. They would rather scoop their own eyeballs out with ice cream spoons than admit that liberals were right. And as I wrote back in 2009, which is way before Trump ever showed up, quote, like German soldiers after the fall of Berlin, they've stopped running away from the catastrophe they created only long enough to burn their uniforms, unquote. And just like that, they weren't Republicans anymore. Republicans who'd backed Bush to the hilt, not at all. They were independent, constitutional, conservative Tea Parties who'd never even heard of George Bush.
But the stain remained, Driftglass.
It did.
Until one magical February night in 2016, on the debate stage, when Donald Trump said the thing to Republican voters you were absolutely not supposed to say about Iraq. And he absolved the base of their responsibility for Bush and Iraq. And I agree completely with Driftglass on this. That's when he won.
Yeah.
That's when he won over the Republican base, lock, stock, and barrel. They were going to love him to the end because he made the Bush stain go away.
Yeah, he shifted the blame for it over to where it belonged. Jeb. Yeah.
And as you said, Tim Miller, who was running the Jeb campaign, must have been shitting his pants all along. Anyway, this is what Trump said in the debate.
Obviously, the war in Iraq was a big, fat mistake, all right? Now, you can take it any way you want, and it took Jeb Bush, if you remember at the beginning of his announcement, when he announced for president, took him 5 days. He went back. It was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. Took him 5 days before his people told him what to say, and he ultimately said it was a mistake. The war in Iraq, we spent $2 trillion, thousands of lives. We don't even have it. Iran is taking over Iraq with the second largest oil reserves in the world. Obviously, it was a mistake. So George Bush made a mistake. We can make mistakes, but that one was a beauty. We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East.
But so you still think he should be impeached?
I think it's my turn, isn't it?
You do whatever you want. You call it whatever you want. I want to tell you, they lied.
Okay.
They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
All right.
So you might want to ask yourself, why are so many of them suddenly pro-war and conquest when they were so adamantly anti-war and anti-conquest 5 minutes ago? It's because MAGA is not a set of policy beliefs or a bunch of checked ideological boxes. MAGA is a genre. MAGA is a vibe, which is why when the savvy crowd sees Republican voters appearing to casually and completely reverse what they swore were their bedrock beliefs and then do it again and again and again, the savvy crowd are baffled. They have no theory to fit those facts because they've always taken as gospel that what Republican mopes say they believe on any given day must be based on what they said they believed yesterday and will probably be the same as what they will say tomorrow that they believe in. But Republican voters, we know this, Blue Gal, Republican voters do not behave that way at all, because the policies they'll swear by on a Monday because Sean Hannity said so, and then drop like first period French on Wednesday because Sean Hannity said so, are just props to them. They're just devices, plot devices. This is why MAGA mopes not only don't give a shit that Trump lies constantly, they're thrilled by it. They're delighted by it, since in the MAGA genre, everything is treated as a plot device that either advances the MAGA narrative or threatens it. Who cares whether an individual story element is true or not, Blue Gal?
No. And so when, for instance, Fox News goes against the vibe,
right,
and is forced into a corner by, say, Biden winning Arizona,
yeah,
they find another media outlet to tell them what they want to hear.
They'll march right over to Newsmax, who will tell them what they want to hear. Overnight, when Megyn Kelly started making them feel icky because she was saying Donald Trump treated her like shit.
He did.
And suddenly, MAGA people I know in Springfield were like, you know, that Megyn Kelly, she's just about as bad as that Rachel Maddox they have. Is she a lesbian? Is she a lesbian too? You know who I'm liking a lot? This Tucker Carlson kid. He's got a lot going on. And just like that, they're the object of their masturbatory desire. Megyn Kelly became an unperson.
Yeah.
And who shifted into that position? Tucker Carlson. And now Tucker Carlson's over somewhere in Russia looking at shopping carts, and Megyn Kelly's back on the scene. And they just keep doing shit like this because they have no fixed set of beliefs at all other than, well, we'll get to that. We'll get to what they do believe. Yeah.
So from the MAGA perspective, asking whether or not this is true.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
Or whether or not this from NBC is true, quote, Trump repeats false claims that children are undergoing transgender surgery during the school day, unquote. Or whether or not this from a federal government press release is true, quote, Trump, it's a tremendous difference. We're going to get the drug prices down, not 30 or 40%. No, we're going to get them down 1,000%. 600%, 500%, 1,500%, numbers that are not even thought to be achievable. And it will be, serious. It will be numbers that nobody can even imagine, unquote.
Magic.
Or whether or not the 10,000 other lies Trump has spewed are true is irrelevant to the MAGA vibe. It's a vibe.
It's a vibe. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Katharine Hepburn can be this in one movie and that in the other. Peter O'Toole, it's a vibe. And the scripts they're handed to perform their daily function can change radically. But they're at the core of it, they're performing their job, which is supporting the dear leader at any cost. Because all those lies, all the lies that he tells, all the lies they pretend to believe, and sometimes they really do believe, are just plot devices designed to advance the MAGA narrative. They're scripts they need to faithfully recite based on whatever the dear leader needs them to believe today. Understanding which way the MAGA mob will jump is not and never has been a matter of sifting through the mountain of self-contradicting bullshit that constitutes the MAGA dogma. This is what the savvy crowd always gets wrong. Understanding those wild contradictions in MAGA dogma over time only makes sense when you understand the Republican myth being served by those lies. A myth that long predates the rise of Donald Trump. And you know what? It's really pretty simple. As simple as the earliest American Westerns. Their world is a world of black hats and white hats. They, who are white, Christian conservative nationalists and their fellow travelers, are the white hats, and pretty much everyone else are the black hats, Blue Gal.
And this is why Barack Obama is both a Muslim and also spent too much time in Reverend Wright's church hating white people.
Yeah, which is why he was a jackbooted thug, a tyrant, and also a feckless weakling who couldn't get anything done.
Right, because they're the real Americans, Driftglass. They are righteous in the original meaning of that word, just, upright, and in accord with divine law. And there is a segment of that population. Not all of them are that religious, but there is a very strong segment of that population, and a lot of the money for MAGA comes from the evangelical wing of that movement. And since to MAGA, this is all self-evident that they and only they and white conservatives are properly aligned with God's moral order, then it follows that whatever they feel to be true and good must be true and good.
Yeah.
And if they mess it up a little bit, well, they're not perfect, Driftglass. They're just forgiven.
And if they mess it up a lot, it wasn't their fault.
Right.
They were misled. They were lied to. We were lied to. Yeah, you're lied to every day. You're lied to 1,000 times a day, and you believe all of them. Maybe the problem is you. Maybe this is a you problem, not a liberal problem. Instead of cogito ergo sum, which everyone knows, I believe, means I think, therefore I am, the MAGA way is, and you'll pardon my rough Latin translation, sentio ergo est. I feel, therefore it is.
Mm-hmm.
It is a pre-Enlightenment way of thinking, where faith doesn't just merely mean beating facts all day long in a contest, but facts that conflict with the one true faith are the darkest kind of heresy. They're witchcraft, Blue Gal. They're sorcery, something to be rooted out and destroyed. And for decades, conservative media and Republican politicians have been making fortunes and winning elections, reinforcing this myth by feeding the base an endless supply of black hats to hate and vote against. I'm sure
and again, it's a show. It's a show.
It has real lethal consequences, but it's a show. And I'm sure we all know the list of the black hats who get fed to the base. They're the liberals and mouthy liberal women, especially the feminazis that they love, that Rush Limbaugh was calling that 35 years ago. Brown people who don't know their place, and urbanites, the gays, of course, immigrants, unions, trans people, pointy-headed intellectuals, government employees. Oh my God, government employees. Got to get rid of those. That's why Doge exists. Hollywood, those rootless cosmopolitans, by which we mean the Jews, of course. Socialists. You all know the drill. And once that base came to accept as an axiom of life that it was perpetually under siege by the black hats, everything, every struggle, every argument becomes an existential crisis. The end of the world. Deficits were an existential crisis until they weren't. And then they were again. And then they weren't again. Every Democratic president was somehow illegitimate and also simultaneously a feckless weakling, a jackbooted tyrant, and the worst president in history. I am reminded how many Republicans were bemoaning the fact that why can't we get back to the days when Bill Clinton was president?
Yeah.
When the next worst president comes along in their Barack Obama will be the end of America. Why can't we go back to the good old days of Bill Clinton?
Why are insurance companies getting so much money, Driftglass? It's just terrible.
It's very confusing, Blue.
Ka-ching! Everything was a battle in a forever war for the survival of real America, where the salvation of the nation was always hanging by a thread. And gradually, the fascist blood and soil language that has been thrown around on hate radio and the dark web. Since the 80s, we've had hate radio, constantly framing the press as the enemy of the people, slandering any opposition as deranged parasites, speaking of the nation as something that needs cleansing and purification. That filtered up through the base, where it became the common tongue, and into conservative television, Republican political ads, conservative think tanks and publications, and ultimately Republican politicians.
Yeah. And in that environment, what does it matter if what the dear leader says is true or not? It doesn't matter at all. What does it matter if what fascist state media says is true or not? Who cares if slander about eating pets is racist bullshit? Who cares if trans people are no threat to anyone? The only thing that matters in that environment is the utility of the words coming out of the dear leader's mouth. And because us black hats are such a threat to real America, any and all weapons and tactics are permitted.
Yep. Including lying. You're allowed to lie for white Jesus.
Lying all the time. Right. And when those lies fall apart, just go to the next lie. When you have to change your mind 180 degrees, just do it. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. They're all just props in the show.
Conservative media, Republican politicians, and their funders worked very hard for many decades with that patient capital of fascism, engineering a voting base for whom facts are irrelevant and anyone who tells them anything they don't want to hear is dismissed as fake news. This is how conservative media and Republican politicians paved a road for Donald Trump to win the White House twice.
Yeah. And looking at you, Tom Nichols, there's a desperate attempt on among our Never Trump friends to pretend that this never happened, the past never happened, everything began in 2016, and we will never be rid of this problem until we've diagnosed it correctly.
Yeah.
And as long as our allies are dead set against correctly diagnosing exactly how we got this way, we're always going to be, one election away from catastrophe. Did lies about Obama's birth certificate feel true to the racist Republican base? Did lies about Somalis eating people's pets feel true to those same bigots 15 years later? Did lies about cafeteria castrations feed the MAGA morons hysteria about trans people? Does the torrent of lies that Trump vomits out on a daily basis tickle the MAGA's ganglia and reinforce their myths about apocalyptic struggle, heroism, and destiny, Blue Gal? Yes, they all do. And in the end, that is all that matters.
Because MAGA, again, is not a set of policy beliefs or a checked set of ideological boxes.
No, MAGA is a vibe. MAGA is a genre in which it's just black hats versus white hats all day long.
And all those lies are necessary. The necessary story elements that move the plot along.
And I have a side story to tell you, which cracked me up. It's darkly funny. It's about Trump and Venezuela. And it just cracked me up in the worst possible way when I listened to it. Because I don't know if you're familiar with a website called The Bulwark, Blue Gal. Ever heard of them?
I only hear about it in this house every day.
Yeah. Well, former Republicans run it. And apparently they're the salvation of the Democratic Party, which is lovely. And they have a bunch of podcasts. They have a shit ton of money, lots of people writing for them, and a ton of podcasts, including a daily podcast hosted by a guy named Tim Miller. You might have heard of him. And Tim Miller has everything on this website is on a very regular schedule. You know what's happening when and who does what when. So with Tim Miller, he has the same guest every Monday. And then Tuesday through Friday, they mix it up with a lot of different guests. Plus, there are a lot of commercials on that site.
Oh, yeah.
Wall-to-wall commercials. They have actual sponsors, not fake sponsors like we do, Blue Gal. Anyway, the timeline of Trump's illegal invasion of Venezuela began on Saturday, right?
Right.
And they don't do a podcast on Sunday. So the first opportunity they had to talk about Venezuela was on Monday. And Monday was when Tim Miller talks with his regular guest about whatever happened over the weekend. And his regular guest on Monday is a guy named Bill Kristol.
Bloody Bill Kristol?
Bloody Bill Kristol. The man who wasn't satisfied with Iraq being decapitated. He thought every regime in the Middle East should be decapitated, and we could do it all if we only had the will to do it.
We only have the will to do it for Project for a New American Century. We'll do it.
We'll do it. And it was going to be a good thing. Everything was fine, and the war will be over by Christmas. Now, I found it fucking hilarious that a podcast which is talking to Bill Kristol about the illegal conquest and occupation of an oil-rich foreign country under false pretenses by a Republican president, they managed to do a really deep dive into the 1989 invasion of Panama, but they somehow skipped entirely over Iraq. There's no Iraq at all.
You
in this
mustn't talk about that war with Bill Kristol.
This is clearly, there had to be a story meeting before it, like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Mr. Iraq's going to be on. We're going to talk about the invasion of Venezuela. Hey, let's talk about Panama instead.
Yeah,
because
right.
He was in the White House. He was working as Dan Quayle's chief of staff.
Oh, great!
So he was aware of what was going on. Maybe he can talk about that. We'll just hope everyone forgets Bill Kristol and Iraq at this time. And at least two people, well, me one, and now you two, did not forget Bill Kristol and Iraq. And the degree to which they were desperate to avoid talking about that came through in every sound they made, every sentence that they talked
every
about.
breath they inhaled.
And I was laughing, and I shouldn't laugh at the tragedy of Iraq, but the fact that they had Bill Kristol on
as the regular Monday guy, there was no avoiding it, right?
Talk about this one subject, and they avoided the one thing he's known for that is exactly this subject, like the fucking plague. Tells me all I want to know about the honesty and integrity of our
the bulwark. Yes. Anyway, after all that, you may be asking yourself, okay, if MAGA idiots just believe whatever they're told to believe, why did so many of them choke on the Epstein Files cover-up?
That's a fair question. That's a good
And
question.
I think that is a fair question.
Yeah. And to answer it, we will need to talk about the difference between what's known as affirmative covenants, or I will promises, and negative covenants, or I won't promises. Now, affirmative covenants require the promiser to perform a specific action, like I will release the Epstein files, just as an example. And in contrast, negative covenants require the promiser to refrain from a specific action or behavior, such as no more wars, for example. Now, in the case of Trump's most solemn affirmative covenant with his base, I will release the Epstein files, all the elements needed for him to keep his word were under his personal control. The files were under his control. The Congress, the Department of Justice, the FBI, all of those people were under his control. There were no outside forces or variables that might have made it impossible to do what he had just promised his base, his followers, that he would do. Therefore, because there was nothing standing in his way of doing it, no alibi or excuse would ever be good enough to justify him breaking that promise. Now, that was an affirmative covenant with his base.
Yeah, I also think that sex with children is just a bridge too far.
Yeah.
For a lot of them.
Well, yeah.
And they really wanted to get Bill Clinton on this.
Yes, they did.
And so they invested everything in it.
They did.
And they want all of the royals and all of the elites to go down. That's right. Trump is one of them. Trump got rich and is rich, but he's still, one of us.
Right.
He's a rough talking white guy. So who likes to collect sports memorabilia. So he's one of us.
Right.
Whereas all these elites, all these Prince Andrew, that kind of person, we want to take down all of those people.
Well,
Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew.
There's a massive QAnon infrastructure.
Yes.
That a big part of the base is built on.
And they're addicted to their phones, and they're addicted to uncovering the worst crime. A crime against a child is the worst crime you can do. And I applaud that. A crime against a child is the worst thing you can do.
And before Trump was president, they could say, well, the DOJ is hiding at the FBI. I mean, how many times was Dan Bongino lying about the FBI on his podcast?
Yeah.
How many times was Kash Patel lying about these people?
Absolutely.
So, but once Trump was reelected, all of those factors came under his control. There was no excuse.
You brought those people into your administration.
But that's the point being, all of the things that were supposedly preventing the disclosure of the files are now under your control.
Yes.
There's no more excuses left to not do it.
Because Kash Patel's right there to take care of it.
Right.
Yes.
That is an affirmative covenant. That is an I will promise.
And you have the power to do it.
And you have the power to do it. Exactly.
Wow. And then, of course, Venezuela is different. Clearly, this is a war of plunder and revenge. But since MAGA idiots are programmed to believe almost any lie he tells them, all it took to create a loophole in his no more wars negative covenant with his base, big enough, by the way, to sail an invasion fleet through, literally, was to make up some transparently ridiculous shit about terrorism and threats to American security and drug and it's all right out of W. Bush's Iraq War playbook.
Mm-hmm. It sure was.
And Fox News helped. Fox News has been having orgasms all weekend.
Yep.
And that's why for those of us who have been around for a while and are not terrified about talking about the before time, Bill Kristol, hi there. This all seems familiar to us. Through a glass and darkly, as the saying goes, but familiar.
So, a little trip down memory lane, just like we promised. In 2004, as in 2024, we were stunned that Americans would reelect such a manifestly unfit person as president. It's the reason a lot of us took up blogging, as a matter of fact. It was a real what the fuck moment about what the grassroots of the Republican Party was really about and what they were willing to do, what they were willing to stomach, what lies they were willing to overlook to stay in power.
And in 2005, as in 2025, we watched as the Republican Party took unified control over the House, the Senate, and the White House. They extended the massive Bush tax cuts passed laws protecting gun owners, and tried to privatize Social Security. By the end of 2005, Bush's foreign policy had seriously damaged our alliances. His extended tax cuts had ballooned the deficit. His domestic agenda was going nowhere. His incompetence was starting to become an embarrassment. His poll numbers were plummeting, and he was hemorrhaging support among independent voters. I'm an independent.
Yeah. They were evaporating. And then came the 2006 midterm. This is from NBC, November 9th, 2006. Quote, Republicans hold on to their base, but the Republican Party ceded the center of American politics and its many groups of swing voters to the Democratic Party in the 2006 midterm elections with predictable results. The GOP lost the House and the Senate, unquote.
And from the Pew Research Center, November 14th, 2006, quote, this year there was something a bit different in the turnout dynamic. A sharp increase in the Democratic House vote from 2002, coupled with a significant decline in the Republican vote, unquote. They stayed home.
Democrats were angry. They were pissed. They needed to be able to exert some control over what Republicans were doing to the country. And they came out in droves. And Republicans were starting to feel sick and tired and a bit let down and like they'd been lied to. And they stayed home. So just to be clear, this is not a prediction about the 2026 midterms. That's crazy. Trump is a rapidly unraveling lunatic, and congressional Republicans are all garbage people. So we're not going to predict what will actually happen in 2026. This is just a reminder that while the MAGA base will remain loyal to the dear leader until the last dog dies, political gravity has not been repealed. And being shackled to the whims of a rapidly unraveling lunatic is not where any congressperson or senator running for re-election wants to be.
If they run.
Exactly.
And we are now in decision season where a number of them are deciding they're not going to.
Yeah, maybe they want to.
We had a Republican congressman who's a real rabid anti-gay guy, I guess. Mm-hmm. There's his legacy, but he passed away. It was announced this morning. Had an aneurysm or something and died. And Mike Johnson's majority just shrinks by a lot. You know, every time Congressman Massey gets more and more power because you don't have any give in your majority in the House.
There's no margin for error at all.
No margin for error.
And you are basically sitting, you're Trump's lapdog.
Right.
He's vetoing bills.
Only see what he tells you to see.
He's vetoing bills out of petulance.
Yeah.
To punish like Colorado because Lauren Boebert, said a mean thing about him or what have you.
He doesn't like mail-in voting in Colorado, so he's going to punish Colorado. Yeah. And then the other thing that came out today is Pam Bondi said, well, there's now millions of documents in the Epstein Files that we haven't even looked at yet. And we're probably not going to get all of these to Congress when it's a law passed by the Congress, signed by the president, that you have to give it to them.
Right.
But we're probably not going to get all these to the Congress. This is what she said until after President Trump is out of office.
Yeah. Oh, that's a real shame.
And I got news for Pam Bondi. She's not going to be in office after the 2026 midterms.
No. Well, and
if it flips as hard as we think it's going to flip, and she's facing contempt charges the minute they take office in January of 2027, she ain't going to be there.
Well, and my understanding is that taken all in all, less than 1% or approximately 1% of the Epstein Files have been released.
Yeah.
It's like 99% of them are still under lock and keys. And Trump is like, let's start a war in Venezuela.
Yeah.
We'll stop talking about it then.
Yeah.
And again, we're not predicting the 2026 midterms. We're simply saying.
No, we are not.
We, like probably a lot of you, have been here before in a certain sense. This all seems very familiar to us. The dynamic in the White House, the dynamic in Congress, the fact that it's falling apart for Republicans, the fact that the guy in charge of their party is clearly losing support from all the people he needed to get elected in the first place. The fact that he won't
the one thing I wanted to tell you about the man who passed away in California, because he's like I said, the gay publications were all pointing out, this is somebody who was so anti-trans and anti-LGBTQ plus, and so we're not going to miss him. And of course, rabid Republican from a gerrymandered district in California.
Right.
And several of my colleagues at Crooks and Liars are from California. So it was brought up in the team discussion with Prop 50. Is it still a red district? And one of my California colleagues said, you know what? It leans blue because of Prop 50.
Yeah.
Now, maybe that's what made him have an aneurysm. I don't know. I'm not trying to be unkind about a dead person, except that, that political party is a party of hate that has upended my life with health insurance costs. So I don't have a lot of sympathy for him right now.
No.
I will say that. I don't wish anyone dead, but if you're gone already and your district leans blue now, you brought that on yourself, buddy.
Yeah.
I need to take a deep breath, Drift Glass.
Take a deep breath. I'm trying to come up with a Mark Twain quote about, I'm not glad he's dead, but I'll have many nice things to say at his funeral or something like that. It's like, all we want.
I will read his obituary with pleasure, I think was what he said.
All we want is our country back.
Yeah.
That's all we want. And all we want to do with the power that we would have to get our country back is clean air, clean water, good schools.
Make lives better for people.
That's all we want. That is literally all we want. And the fact that there are 70 million fanatics who are so blood oath tied to a lunatic, they would rather burn the country to the ground. They would rather watch Trump day after day destroy their country and cheer for it until he crosses that Epstein line. And then they start getting a little ooh-goo in the tummy.
Well, and they're goo in the tummy because all of a sudden they discovered they need Obamacare.
Yeah.
A lot of them are waking up to that this month.
It's like, sorry, that's waking up after you've jumped out of the window.
Yeah.
And
now you've made a decision that you're just not going to be insured this year.
Good luck.
Oh yeah, but that's my decision not to buy health insurance. No, it's Republicans' decision to make it unaffordable.
Mm-hmm.
All right, deep breath, deep cleansing breath.
Yeah. Oh,
I want everyone to feel free to next week.
Next week.
What's next week?
Oh, I'm sorry. This Thursday. This Thursday,
we're going to be celebrating our 16th podcast anniversary.
That's true. 100% true.
And we have a time scheduled to be on the Bob Cesca show.
Yeah.
January 14th, Wednesday, January 14th. If you have a calendar that you keep such things on, bless you.
If the check clears.
What check is that? We love being on with Bob. Yeah. And so we're going to be on with Bob. The plan is to be on Wednesday, January 14th.
Well, and he has talked about, he and Mary Trump talk about Trek politics.
Yes, and you have a few Trek things you want to talk to him about.
I'd like to know how big of a nerd Bob Cesca really is.
Well, you might be able to, if I get that full-time job, then you might be on with Bob a lot more by yourself than you think.
All I want to know is, did you read, since both of you are big fans of The Arena, the Star Trek TOS episode of The Arena with the Gorn?
Yeah.
Did you, either of you read the original, I think Frederick Brown, I think he wrote it, a story on which that episode is based? Because the story on which it's based is vastly different than the story that made it.
We're going to have to talk to him about that.
Yeah. I think we'll have stuff to talk about. There's other things like, politics, media, Venezuela, things like that.
Everybody, we want you to feel free to write to both of us at proleftpodcast@gmail.com because we love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service Go Postal Unions letter on the air unless you say otherwise.
Please also, if possible, share our show on social media. That works out really well for everyone. If you love this podcast, please get someone else to listen as well. And thank you for doing that.
Hey, Driftglass, how are the Internet kitties doing this week?
Well, Blue Gal, we were speaking of gravity a few minutes ago. And speaking of gravity, the Internet kitties have been testing it today. And we have the busted picture frame to prove it.
Yeah, we do.
Let's think about living. Let's think about loving. Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the bopping and the loving, lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the whine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with a switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
The Professional Left Podcast is produced and recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright DGBG Productions. ProLeftPod.com.